What's up, college football fans? Welcome back to an all new episode of the Cover 2 College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Smithson, joined as always by my co host, the Okie Longhorn himself, Dalt, as usual. First and foremost, how are we doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. We're here. We made it. I know week 0 was a little bit of a tease. It was a good tease though. Good tease, and there's a little bit of a scary tease to end the night, but it was a good weekend of week 0. Just welcome back to football. But now we get the real deal. We get Thursday to Monday football, and I'm ready. I'm excited.
For sure. And uh, would be remiss if we buried the lead here. We have a guest tonight. Our good buddy BP joins us for what is it now, BP? The third time on the podcast.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Third time.
we got a good show tonight, fellas. Going to be a lot of fun talking about these week 1 games. We got 5 good ones we're going to talk about. Going to do a quick, short recap of week 0. Probably just touch on that Florida State debacle. Pick our games, pick super dogs, and then we're going to get right into what probably everybody that has done any kind of media has been the most excited to do this year. And we are going to make our 12-team playoff picks. All 3 of us have picked all 12 teams. We're going to go through it one team at a time, each person, give our picks, kind of give our reasoning. This is why we picked our records in the last couple weeks for every team in the Power 4. We've each picked a non-Power 5 team or non-Power 4 team, because as we know, there will be one of those that will get their brains beat in by the 5 seed, whoever that might be, more than likely. But I guess, Dalt, BP, we can kind of get right into it. Week 0, like you said, Dalt, we had some games. It was a nice little appetizer to get us started and get ready for week 1. We've got games kicking off on Thursday, so we've got Labor Day weekend. We've got games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Is there a game Monday? I feel like there is, but I can't.
I think
can't
Florida
remember.
State's a
Yes.
standalone game on Monday against
Oh,
Boston
that's right.
College.
Well, hopefully
Get
they
to
don't
look-
screw that
get-
up again.
Get to look like shit all by yourself once again.
So real quick, I'll just ask you guys: Week 0, what did we? I mean, I know we had SMU Nevada. We're not really going to talk about that game, but Georgia Tech Florida State. What was our key takeaways from that game? And I mean, I guess Dalt, BP, whichever one of you want to talk about it first. We obviously, I'm going to assume, all liked Florida State in that game. Didn't really go well over there in Dublin for the Seminoles. So, I mean, I guess I'll start with you, Dalt. What was your key takeaways from this game?
So, leading into this whole season, all we have heard is Florida State's lost all this. Florida State, how good are they going to be? And everything we've heard has been this: the defense might be better. The defense might be better, or they may be a better team. This may be the best defensive line in the country. And then their opening drive is chalk. I mean, it's just chunk play, chunk play, chunk play, chunk play, touchdown. And you're like, okay, I mean, good for Mike Norvell reloading. And then you're like, all right, this defensive line should handle Georgia Tech's offensive run game fairly easy. And then Georgia Tech washes the entire front 7 on the first play of the game for a 20-yard run. I mean, washes. And I immediately sent it to the chat. BP, after Florida State scored, said, Florida State's going to score 100.
Yep.
After that one play, I immediately sit back. Georgia Tech scoring 101. I mean, it's just for a team that was built up all offseason to just have a chip on their shoulder and to flat out come out and play angry and mad. I mean, you have players watching Georgia Tech players get off the bus, and you're trying to make a big deal about it, and then just to get bullied. Welcome to Mike Norvell football. There's 4 losses coming.
Before I jump in there, BP, what are your thoughts on this game? I mean,
A lot of the same. I texted the group and I was like, fellas, Florida State's going to score 100. And then,
yeah.
and then I watched them play defense and I was like, oh no, this is not good.
Well,
and then they made DJ throw the ball, and that was even worse for Florida State. So, one of us has them to make the college football playoff. So
Couldn't be me.
if that's gonna happen,
Couldn't be me.
they better go on a run and they better start playing way better defense because Georgia Tech just diced them. So
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think one of the key storylines of this game was coming into this game. There had been much had been made of the defensive line for Florida State. A lot of people were talking about this being one of the best defensive lines in the country.
mm,
That was some of the stuff you were hearing, and that was stuff coming out of the kind of media outlets down there at Florida State. So that didn't appear to be quite the case. I mean, they kind of got pushed around a little bit by Georgia Tech. Again, I don't want to beat this game to death. I think Georgia Tech's solid. It didn't. I can't say that I'm shocked that they won this game, but you know, I think we all, like I said, we all thought Florida State would win this game, but ultimately, you got to like what the coach down there at Georgia Tech's doing. That's a program that's been dead for, I mean, pretty much most of our lifetime. You don't really know how good Georgia Tech can be. Is this team that can win 8-9 games, Dalt? You think probably not. But
No.
I mean, neither of us in our preview during the ACC, we weren't high on Georgia Tech. Thought that they ended last year strong. They start strong. He's now what is it, 5-0 against ranked teams at Georgia Tech now.
Yep.
And I think Georgia Tech could give people problems, but I don't. I'm not going to sit here and act like they're now in the position to potentially challenge for that conference. I don't believe that. So if you guys don't have anything else on that game, we'll kind of get right into our week one preview. We got 5 games that we're going to pick. And as usual, Dalt and BP, you've been on here before. We will pick against the spread. We're not picking winners, just simply picking against the spread. Then when we pick these 5, we'll move on to a super dog pick, which is obviously just any underdog that we think is going to cover. Or I guess if you want to go bold and say they're going to win, you can do that if you want to. But I'll start with you guys. Our first game, we've got one of my favorites, the 8th ranked Penn State Nittany Lions heading down to West Virginia to take on the Mountaineers, bright and early, 11 a.m. We've got Penn State coming in as an 8-point favorite. This is a game that was played in Happy Valley a year ago, so this is the second half of a home-and-home series. Over-unders at 51.5, as I'm sure both of you guys remember, had that late backdoor cover by Penn State a year ago. Probably had a lot of bettors upset, but they come in here as an 8-point favorite. And to me, this is a kind of a big game for James Franklin and the Nittany Lions, because this has been kind of, you listen to you make the rounds as far as podcasts go. A lot of people seem to like West Virginia in this game. Some of us on here may be included in that. So, Dalt, give me your thoughts. What do we got? Penn State going to West Virginia. What do you make of this game?
I would like West Virginia a lot more than I kind of already do if they didn't screw them with the time slot here. I mean, West Virginia at night, after giving them hillbillies 12 hours to wake up and booze, is a very incredibly tough place to play. I've went back and forth on this pick all day, but I'm going to stick to my guns and stick to what I originally thought. And West Virginia might not win, but I don't trust Drew Aller to get it done. And I am going to take the West Virginia Mountaineers at home +8.
Okay. Love the pick. BP, what do we got here?
I am going to take Penn State. Drew Aller is scary, I'll be honest, but they have 2 great running backs, great defensive end, great safety. I think they're going to run the ball 40 times on Saturday. And I just think Penn State has too many good football players compared to West Virginia could play great and get beat 34-24. and Penn
that's
State cover
fair.
the spread. So I actually like West Virginia. I just think Penn State is 10 points better than them. So I'm going to take Penn State,
Mm.
which
Well,
I
I hate
know
to
you
tell you,
hate
you're
too.
wrong. You're just wrong. Penn State's not 10 points better than West Virginia. They're not 2 points better than West Virginia because West
Love
Virginia
it.
is going to win this football game. Garrett Green, I'm telling you,
He's a gamer.
I just he's just a guy that he makes the plays. I think he's going to really hurt Penn State with his running ability. Obviously, he's not strictly a runner, but he's really good at getting out of the pocket, creating, causing some chaos, and I don't know that I'd say he can make all the throws, but I think he can make enough throws to beat Penn State. And frankly, I think this game's more of an indictment on Penn State than it is West Virginia. I got them going 9-3, but I just think Penn State, as usual, is kind of overrated. And I think they're going to walk in there with a top 10 ranking, thinking that, hey, which I'll give James Franklin. He's been great at beating teams that he's supposed to beat. It's the ones that, he's not supposed to beat that he can never seem to get an edge on, such as Ohio State, Michigan. But I want to like Penn State, but in all seriousness, I can't trust Drew Aller. The guy has not shown me enough as a quarterback. A lot of people think he's going to take that next step with, former Kansas offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki coming in. I'll just believe it when I see it. That's all I'm going to say. I just don't see it with him. I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he's going into Morgantown and winning that game. I think West Virginia's probably had that game on a bullseye since they finished last season like they did. And Neil Brown still trying to prove people wrong, myself included. Said he was going to get fired by week 4 last year. That didn't happen. So, we'll see. But I like West Virginia +8. And frankly, I like the Mountaineers to win this game outright. So, Dalt, did you say you like West Virginia here +8?
Yeah, +8
Okay,
West
so
Virginia.
Dalt likes West Virginia +8. BP likes Penn State on the road -8. I will, as I said, I'm taking the Mountaineers. We'll move into our second game, fellas. This is a neutral site game. I believe it's in Atlanta. I think I didn't look, but so kind of neutral. Really more of a home game probably for Georgia. But we've got number 14 Clemson taking on Georgia. Another 11 a.m. kick. This is kind of the college football kickoff game. They have one of these every year between usually 2 ranked teams. But Georgia comes in here, fellas, as a 13.5-point favorite. Over-unders at 48.5, which I'm not sure on that. But I'll start with you, BP. What do you make of this matchup? I know how much you love Clemson, so tell me all about them.
First, I have a question. How do Nick Saban and Kirby Smart keep getting to play a neutral site game in Atlanta, Georgia? How do that? It's a good setup. I'll give it to them.
Yeah, like I said, basically a home game for Georgia.
Yeah. I'm taking Georgia. I think they're the best or second best team in the country. Got their quarterback back. They're going to be really good on defense. And I think they didn't win the national title last year. They were probably the best team last year. So I think Kirby's going to have the boys ready to go. Clemson has 0 transfer portal guys to help out because Dabo just doesn't believe in it. And I'm just not a big buyer in Cade Klubnik yet. So I'm taking the Bulldogs big.
Okay. Well, Dalt, what do you think? What do you got here?
I'm kind of in the same boat as BP. We harp on Dabo a lot for how he does his business, especially with the transfer portal. But Clemson does have a good roster. I'll give them that. And the areas that we get caught up in is how good they are on the defensive line, how good they are in at the linebacker spot. Where we get lost with Clemson is the same kind of area we were lost with them last year. They got better at the wide receiver position, but how much better did they get from last year? We know Georgia's going to be good up front. People are questioning how truly elite is this defensive line compared to some that Georgia has had, and I don't buy that. I think this Georgia team is one of the best teams in the country on both sides of the ball. So I'm gonna also take Georgia. I don't think it's gonna be a runaway, but I think that it could be a 2-score game fairly easily.
Yeah.
I do think the
I've
under will hit though.
What is the over under? Did you already say it?
yeah, it's let's see here. I had it pulled up. 48 and a half. Yeah,
Oh.
48 and a half. I just to me this is one of those games that like it's not really going to probably feel like Georgia is really beating Clemson that bad, but you're going to like look up and it's going to be 27-6 or something. And you're going to think like how did we get here? Like cuz that it's just like kind of like the game which these two teams played what was that 2 years ago in this same game and
Yes,
that was
sir.
a
there
rock
was
fight.
not a single offensive touchdown scored. There was a pick six. Final score was like 10-3.
It was
I
beautiful.
think there's probably going to be a little bit more offense in this game than that day, but man, I don't know which way to go here, fellas.
Just do it, Tim.
You
I
love picking
think
Clemson.
I think that Georgia's going to have it covered, but that Clemson might score late to get beat by like 10, like I don't know, 24-14 or something. Because I do still think Clemson has a really good defense that nobody talks about. And I'm kind of with you, BP. Klubnik, I think the jury's still out on him. I like Clemson a lot this year. It's kind of a comeback story for Dabo and those guys in the ACC. And ultimately, this game doesn't really matter as far as that's concerned. And it honestly takes a little bit even more of a hit as far as that goes because you have the 12-team playoff now. And Clemson loses this game and they continue on through the ACC. They may look back at this game in December and be like, well, whatever. Like, who cares? So I'm definitely not taking Clemson to win this game by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm going to take Clemson plus 13.5. I think they maybe get beat by 10. As usual, I always pick Clemson, and they'll probably let me down because that's what they do. I don't know why I keep taking them. We talked about it earlier or the other day, Dalton. I've got them winning the ACC, so I'm probably putting way too much faith in Dabo. But we'll see. And so you guys both like them at Georgia at minus 13. I'm taking Clemson plus 13.5, and we'll move on to our next game. We head down to Florida, fellas, and this is a true road game for a lot of people's ACC favorites. The 19th ranked Miami Hurricanes they head down to Gainesville in a rivalry game against the Florida Gators down at the Swamp. As a road team, they go in here as a 2.5-point favorite, fellas. Over under set at 53.5. Kind of another game that a lot of people are kind of like the upset here. You hear a lot of these national guys talk about Florida having a really good chance to win this game. I may be inclined to be a part of that crowd as well. So, Dalt, what do we make of this 2.5? You like Miami? You like Florida? What do you think?
Anytime you go into the Swamp, it's never easy. It's especially never easy whenever it's a rivalry game like this. Both of these coaches have to win this game. For Billy Napier, he's got to find wins where he can get them. Like that's with the schedule he has this year. If he doesn't find some wins out of thin air, he's probably going to be in the unemployment office come December. I don't want to say that Mario is in that kind of hot seat, but for them to have the season that they want to have, that they think they can have, Miami has to win this game. I don't buy it. I don't buy anything that Miami's selling. I feel fairly confident that Florida is going to kind of control both lines of scrimmages in this. I think this is a
Okay.
very underrated defensive front from Florida. Cam Ward, I mean, how great has he been? He was a little bit of a turnover problem at Washington State. He's like 30. So, I mean,
One of those 8-year guys, Dalt.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Take it
it's
easy on him.
He's
Come
only
on now.
25, Dalt. Give him a break.
well, I think that this is going to be a young man's game. I think that Graham Mertz is going to be improved from what he was last year. Let's not forget that they didn't play terrible last year at Utah to open the season. They just couldn't really get a whole lot going on offense. But I'm gonna take Florida plus 2.5. I think they're probably gonna win this game outright. But that's just kind of where my guts tell me. 2:30 kick, kind of prime time for quote unquote SEC. So I'm gonna take Florida.
What do we think, BP? I'll move it over to you. Give me your thoughts on this one.
I'm in agreement with Dalt. I'm going Florida. The swamp is going to be buzzing at 2:30. That's going to be prime time student section hour. That place is going to be wild on Saturday at 3 p.m. So, and I just don't buy the Miami hype either. They were supposed to be good last year. And I have a hard time believing in a team that doesn't take a knee and fumbles the football and then loses on a Hail Mary. I can't bet on that team. So
It's called a victory formation for a reason, right?
Yes. Yes. And I just don't buy Miami. I think people want Miami to be good because they're the U, but I'm just not big on Miami. So and plus if Florida doesn't win this game, there's very few wins coming for them, I fear. So I'm going Florida.
Yeah. So I think we're going to be across the board in agreement here because I like Florida as well. This is a game that I picked them to win. And I mean, I just am not. I have Miami. Miami's in fine shape for me this year. I think they're going to have a good year, especially compared to what they've done recently. And I like Miami. I like Cam Ward. I think he's really good. But you're talking about going down to the swamp, and I think Florida. I talked about the schedule, Dalt, not being as tough as what some people are making it out to be, because I think some of these teams may not be quite as good as what, and Florida State kind of proven that. I mean, do we think Florida State possible 7-5, 8-4 team, and they're on Florida's schedule, but and kind of the same could be said here with Miami. We don't. That's why I don't. I don't try not to subscribe to all these. Tough schedule this, tough schedule that, because every year's a new year. You don't know what these teams are going to be. I know there have been teams that are consistently good, obviously, but I just I don't think Miami's going to win this game. I just don't. I think Florida's going to make the plays. I like Graham Mertz at home. I like the crowd. I like the stadium. I like Florida here. So give me the Gators as well, plus 2.5. I think they win this game. We'll move on. Fourth game of the weekend. This is our first, or actually our second top 25 matchup. This is our Sunday night, kind of prime time on its own game. We've got the 23rd ranked USC Trojans in Las Vegas taking on the 13th ranked Fighting Brian Kelly LSU Tigers. LSU comes in here, like I said, neutral site game as a 4.5 point favorite. I think I started with Dalt last game, so BP, I'll take your thoughts first. What do you make of this one? This is maybe a sneaky good game. What do you think here?
My question is going to be: is USC any better at defense? And by any better, can they just get lined up and can they not give up 40 every game? because I do think they're going to score some points. They love the quarterback. They love Miller Moss. Like they're coming out and saying he's going to be great. So I'm going to pick USC to cover. They cannot be any worse on defense than they were, and I think they're going to put some points up. So I like the Trojans.
Okay, Dalt, what do you think here?
We say that USC can't be any worse, just like OU fans said. Well, the defense can't get any worse when Lincoln Riley was at OU, and it continuously did. There's one thing that has changed in all of this for Lincoln Riley, and that is he does not have an incompetent play caller or a schemer on his defense anymore. He got rid of Alex Grinch. Speed D's gone. He brought in UCLA's defensive coordinator who had a top 20 defense at UCLA last year.
Okay,
What
so
can he do?
not to cut you off, but to bring that up, you bring that up. I actually heard it on a podcast today. The Lynn guy took the UCLA defense from the year before to his first year. They went from like in total defense, they were in the hundreds to top 10. They were 10th in the country last year. And then in S&P Plus, which is one that a lot of people like compared to total defense, they went from like the 80s to like I think top 20. So just to add to what you're saying there, go ahead, continue.
So if he can even just do a resemblance of that, he does not have to have a top 10 or top 20 defense at USC. USC is going to beat people in gunfights. That's what Lincoln Riley is known for. He can do it. You just have to make some sort of jump. And I think that as much as both of these teams were bad on defense last year, USC did something proactive to fix theirs. And I know that LSU fired most of their defensive staff and brought in new people. But how misused is Harold Perkins going to be again this year? The guy went from being a freshman that was looking like the number one pick in the coming year's draft to now guys are like, well, what did he even do last year? So
right.
You also bring in you promote a new coordinator. Mike Denbrock left for Notre Dame, and you promote Joe Sloan at offensive coordinator at LSU. You don't have your Heisman winning quarterback anymore, who really willed you to a lot of wins that you had last year. So I like USC in this. They may not win, but I don't see Lincoln Riley getting outdueled out in Vegas.
Okay. I actually don't hate that. I did take LSU to win this game, but I could see USC covering. Maybe I could see this game going into overtime. I don't know. This is just it is an intriguing game because LSU. I think LSU is one of the most overrated teams in the country. I'm just going to say it. I don't like LSU. I never have liked LSU. I don't like Brian Kelly. I don't think he's that guy. People say, oh, he did all this at Notre Dame, so he's going to get over the hump at LSU with those athletes. Like, okay, sure. We'll see. He had a Heisman Trophy winner last year, and they only won, 9 games in the regular season because the defense was one of the worst in the country at LSU, of all places. Like, give me a break. I think LSU's overrated. I said on our Big Ten preview, I think USC is going to have a nice season. I'd pick them. I've got both of these teams actually going 9-3, but I think LSU wins this game. I think I am going to take LSU to cover. I think they win by maybe a touchdown, but I could see this going either way. I really like the Moss kid at USC. Guy absolutely can sling the football. We talked about that in our preview, Dalt. This could turn into a track meet, and that's, I think, what everybody thinks is going to happen. So it'll probably end up not being the case. It'll be like 24-17 will be the final or something.
Just a defensive struggle.
Yeah.
USC and LSU just fighting it out in a rock fight.
Well, think if this game was played in 03, fellas. That's exactly what it would have been. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking about at that time, there's still two premier programs in the sport, but as far as defensively, these teams would kill you in those days. I mean, literally kill you. And
What's the over under, Tim?
the over under is 64 and a half.
That's a big
So,
number.
yeah.
That's
They
that's
are
big.
thinking there's going to be some points scored.
They're
Yeah.
not predicting a rock fight.
No.
So I like LSU minus 4.5 as much as overrated as I think they are. I do think in week one, I think they're going to be a little better off than USC. So give me the Tigers at minus 4.5.
Tigers.
Dalt, you like USC plus 4.5? BP, what did you take USC or LSU?
Yes, sir. I took USC.
USC plus 4.5. So you guys both are y'all both thinking USC wins this game?
Oh yeah.
BP, you think USC wins?
I've got LSU as my most disappointing team in the SEC this year, and I think it starts week one.
That's fair.
I think USC could win the game. I also see a version where USC is winning and that they just do what USC usually does and they just give it up late to get beat by 3 points. So I'm not going to pick them to
Still
win the
cover.
game. I do think they will cover though.
Okay.
One of them up 4 moments.
Yes, sir.
Give up a touchdown with like 5 seconds left.
Yep. Just rip your heart
Yeah.
at.
Yeah,
I could
but
see
still,
it.
but you still cover, so it doesn't matter.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
there you go. Taking it to the bank. I did see interesting note here. LSU's not won an opening season game since 2019.
Ooh.
So take that.
Let's
take
not
that.
let's not
take
talk
that.
about that.
Who'd they beat that year, Tim?
Well, that wasn't Texas, was it, Dalt? That was week 2, wasn't it?
I think so. That was
Yeah,
Joe
y'all were
Burrow's
both-
year, though.
Yeah, it was Joe Burrow's
Yeah.
year. That was, yeah, they were
Tough
pretty
year
good.
to play LSU, Dalt.
They were
Hey,
pretty
we
good.
only lost by 7. We
Here
didn't
we
get
go.
boat race. We didn't
Here we
get
go.
we didn't get skull drug in the playoffs.
Anyway, got beat by both of them. I guess that's all that matters. Okay, moving on, fellas. Game of the week. We don't have insert fancy music here. Montage. All the commentator talk. Here we go. Game of the week. Cover 2. Game of the week. This is it, fellas. We've got the number 7 Notre Dame Fighting Irish, possibly overrated, at Kyle Field, taking on the 20th ranked, newly anointed leader of the cult-led Mike Elko, Texas A&M Aggies. A&M, fellas, 3-point favorites at home. Over under 46.5. This is a primetime game, 6:30 Saturday night in College Station. Dalt, second favorite team in college football, man. What do you think here? What do you like the Aggies -3? You like Notre Dame? What do we got?
This is a really interesting matchup. Notre Dame is replacing a ton on the offensive line. I think I've heard something today that on the total starts on the offensive line, they have 6. Between all 5 linemen, they have 6 total starts.
Yeah, and they had a guy get hurt in fall camp that was,
Yeah,
I think,
so-
going to be a starter.
So they're going to trot out a true freshman at left tackle against what is a sneaky, scary Texas A&M defensive line.
Yeah.
You bring in the what's his name from? He played at Colorado last year. Nick Skirton.
Purdue.
Was it at Purdue? I
Purdue,
thought it was
yeah.
at Colorado.
Skirton, yeah. You're
Same
right on
colors,
that.
Dalt. Same colors.
Confused.
About the same quality of team too.
You bring him in, you're like, oh, you got to look out for this guy. Well, you also have to look out for another former 5-star in the Turner kid, and then you also have to look out for another former 5-star in the DJ Hicks kid. You also have to look out for another former 5-star in the what is it? The kid that chose them over OU, the Dimwitty.
Oh no, that was there was 2 of them, the Dindy kid and DJ
Yeah.
Hicks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, both
We'll
of
talk
them
about
are
it.
still there. So We're gonna find out if it was Mike Elko at Duke that made Duke so great, or if it was Riley Leonard at Duke that made Duke great. I think that this is going to be a pretty low-scoring, boring game to watch. Texas A&M is going to have to running back by committee after losing the Owens kid. I don't know that Notre Dame's just going to be able to move the ball super effectively, consistently all night. But I do have Notre Dame winning this. I think that Notre
Okay.
Dame is going to go in and kind of prove a lot of people wrong. I think that as good as the front four, front seven might be for Texas A&M, there are some really big question marks at the secondary, and there are some solid athletes at Notre Dame at the wide receiver position that can really get after you if Riley Leonard's given time. And I think that's how they're going to have to beat them. I think it's going to have to, be a couple chunk plays to get you into field goal range or get you into the red zone to cap off a drive. But I like Notre Dame in this.
What do you think, BP?
I just looked, and this obviously is a rematch of Riley Leonard versus Elko, and Notre Dame beat Duke by 7 points, and Riley Leonard really was not very good in that game. So I just cannot get behind A&M on offense. I just don't. I don't think they're gonna score enough to beat Notre Dame, and I think Riley Leonard is going to make enough plays to put him in a position to win. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to win against Texas A&M. So
All right. You like the Fighting Irish +3.
it's the helmets, brother. Come on
Dalt,
now.
who'd you take?
Notre Dame.
I can't remember anything.
Notre Dame.
I'm going A&M here, fellas. I picked A&M to win this game, and I think if they win, at the minimum, it's going to be by 3. And I could see it being a last-second field goal. I think this is actually going to be a really good game. I think Notre Dame's a little overrated, but I also think that Notre Dame's pretty good. At the same time, you got year 3, Marcus Freeman. They bring in a really good. I mean, we loved Riley Leonard last year, Dalt. You loved him.
I mean, he about beat Notre Dame last year on a broken leg.
Yeah.
Like, let's not forget that he did have a broken leg for that Notre Dame game, which was the last game that he played. And it took Mike Elko calling a bad play on defense for them to lose that game. Sam Hartman runs for 20 yards for a first down to cap the game. So, I mean, who made Duke great?
I picked A&M to win the game, but the more and more I sit here and think about it and talk about it, I kind of start to lean more Notre Dame. I know that you talk about the offensive line versus that defensive front. I do think Texas A&M has the advantage there, but I agree with BP too. The offense for A&M, like you get the Weigman kid back. How good is he going to be? Can he stay healthy? Will he even finish this game? Who knows? He's just so injury prone. Like I said, I like A&M -3 here. I think they find a way to get it done. Either score a late touchdown to go up 3 or 4, or kick a field goal maybe as time expires. But I actually do think this game is going to kind of live up to the billing. I like A&M quite a bit this year in year 1 under Elko, just because I think the schedule's so favorable. And I like Notre Dame fine, but I do think they're going to drop this game. So I'm going to take the Texas A&M Aggies. I think they cover this -3. And so that kind of concludes our picks against the spread, fellas. So we'll move into our super dogs, which again, like I said, that was basically any underdog that you think is going to cover or might win. And Dalt, I will go ahead and lead with you. If you have your super dog, I'll let you go and give me your logic here.
I do. I am going to take in this week 1 slate of games, I'm going to take the Fresno State Bulldogs. I believe the last time I looked, they were 21.5-point dogs to Michigan. Now it's just down to 21. They're 21-point dogs to Michigan. I think this is an incredibly look ahead spot for Michigan. They're trying to figure out what they have on offense, who's going to be their quarterback. They have Texas coming in next weekend. I think that it could potentially be kind of a look ahead. I don't think that it's going to be just Fresno State. I'm not saying Fresno State's going to beat Michigan because I don't think they are, but I think this is a game that you get to the fourth quarter and it's like 28-14, and Fresno just kind of finds a way to stay within 2 touchdowns.
That's fair. I don't hate that pick because I actually like Fresno State a lot this year as one of those kind of group of 5 teams that maybe could have an outside shot at that final playoff spot. We'll see what kind of year they have, but BP, I'll throw it over to you. Who do you like as your super dog?
This week for my super dog, I have a former player who plays for North Dakota, and they are plus 28.5 against your Iowa State Cyclones. So I'm going
Okay.
with North Dakota to cover that big spread.
Okay. You gotta represent for one of your
Hey,
guys.
Got to represent, brother.
I don't hate that pick. Matt Campbell, never know when he's going to drop a game. He did that. I can't remember who he got beat by, where he almost like fought that fan in the crowd. Was that
Wasn't it-
last year that
It was
happened?
Ohio. It was
Yeah,
Ohio, wasn't it last year?
yeah.
And the
I
fan
think
was like,
so.
"You're on the hot seat," and he turns around, and he tries to fight him.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we'll move into mine, and don't take it personal, but I love the Colorado State Rams against your Texas Longhorns. I think you're looking at a team this is a 32-point spread now. Texas minus 32. I think Texas wins this game and has no real issues, but I don't think y'all are going to win by more than 4 touchdowns. I think you maybe win like, I don't know, 42-14 or something like that. Uh, I I just think Colorado State, things didn't go exactly how they would have planned last year, but you bring quarterback back that a lot of people like. Has a weird name. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But then the Horton kid at wide receiver, that guy's an NFL wide receiver. A lot of people tried to get him out of the portal or tried to get him to go into the portal so they could snatch him up. And what was Texas's biggest weakness a year ago? Secondary. I know you and others, you like to believe that problem has been fixed. We don't know yet. So I think Colorado State's going to have some. I think they just keep it close. Like I said, maybe 49-21, something like that. I think they keep it within about 4 touchdowns. So I like the Rams here to cover that 32. Obviously, not giving them any kind of chance to win this game, but I like Colorado State at plus 32. So real quick, fellas, before we get into this playoff, we'll recap our picks. Y'all bear with me; I've not wrote them down. Penn State at West Virginia. Did we BP like Penn State -8? Me and you, Dalt, liked West Virginia +8. Clemson versus Georgia. You guys both like Georgia -13.5. I'm taking the Tigers plus 13.5. Miami at Florida. We all three like Florida plus 2.5 here. USC versus LSU. You both like USC plus 4.5, or no?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
And I like LSU minus the 4.5. And then our final game, Notre Dame at Texas A&M. I liked A&M -3, and you guys both like Notre Dame +3 in that one. And Super Dogs, Dalt, you had Fresno State at what, plus 21?
Yep, plus
And
21.
then BP had North Dakota. North Dakota, what was it, plus 28, BP?
Yep, plus 28.5.
28.5, okay. And then I'm taking Colorado State at plus 32. So with that, fellas, we'll get into the fun stuff here on the pod. And how we're going to do this, I explained it to y'all today, but just for the listeners, we're going to basically take this like a snake draft, give our playoff picks. We're going to start with the 1 seed all the way through the 12. I'll pick one of y'all to start with the 1. I'll finish the 1, and then I'll start the 2. Then whoever finishes the 2 will start. You guys, you've done enough fantasy football. You know how a snake draft works. So, with that, I will go to you, Dalt. Who is your number one seed in the inaugural 12 team, yes, you heard that correctly, college football playoff?
My number one team is the University of Ohio State.
Okay. You got them winning the Big Ten, correct?
Yep, I have them going unscathed.
13-0?
Yep.
Okay. BP, who's your number one seed and why?
I have Georgia being my number one seed. I think they're going 13-0. They beat Ole Miss, and I looked at their schedule earlier. I know, like, it's one of the tougher schedules they've had lately. That's not really saying much, but I just think they're better than everybody they play. So,
Charmin's tougher than the schedules they played in the past 2-3 years.
so I think they're really good. So, and they're the SEC champ. That usually gets you one or two. So, they are my number one.
My number one team is also Georgia. I also have them at 13-0. I think they run the table in the SEC. I have them beating or Ole Miss as well in the conference championship game. Obviously, if you guys have listened to the pod, you know me and Dalt's picks as far as these conference championship games. So some of our playoff picks are pretty easy to deduct. Obviously, the conference champions of the Power Four get those automatic bids, with the non-Power Five also getting one as the next highest ranked team, whoever that may be. So yeah, I've got Georgia as my number one team. Think they run the table as tough as that schedule is. I've got them beating Ole Miss twice, beating Bama, beating Texas. It's a tough schedule, but I like Georgia a lot. Think there's a decent chance this team wins a national title. So I will continue on, and I'll give my number two seed, and I'll go over to the Big Ten, and I like the Ohio State Buckeyes as my two seed. I've got them going 11-1 in the regular season, dropping that game to Oregon. But then I've got them getting revenge against Oregon in the Big Ten championship to finish 12-1, and they secure that top four seed, first round bye. I've got the Buckeyes as my two seed. I'll throw it back to you, BP. Who is your two seed and why?
We are on the same wavelength here, Tim. I have Ohio State. Originally, I had them running the table, but I do think Oregon is going to get them. And then I have them winning the Big Ten championship game. So they are also my number two team. They obviously hit the portal. Will Howard at quarterback, we'll see if he continues to play. I don't think he has to play great, truthfully, for this team to be really, really good. I just think he can't put him in situations where he beats themselves. So, and also they got Chip Kelly dialing it up. So I really like Ohio State. They're my two seed.
Okay. Doll, who's your two seed?
My two seed is the Clemson Tigers at 12-1. I think they dropped that game to Georgia in week 1, and I think they pretty well can just trot their way through the ACC now. Nothing that I've seen on their schedule makes me think that they can't go on an 11 or on a 12 game win streak and go on to win the ACC. So I have them at number 2.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll turn it right back around, Dalt. Who's your three seed?
My 3 seed, BP's going to love this. My 3 seed is the Mike Gundy led Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Yes, sir.
I think that this is a very overlooked team in the Big 12. I know there's a lot of hype around Utah and Kansas State, but let's not forget that Mike Gundy beat Kansas State last year, who had Will Howard. This is the same team. Mike Gundy literally has the same team. I think they lost one guy out of all their starters, and he brings back the most experienced offensive line. He brings back the best running back in the country. He brings back another seventh year quarterback golly, get this guy a walker. But I think this is an Oklahoma State team. I think they, like we talked about, I think they find a way to lose one of them games that they shouldn't, somewhere in the middle of all this. I think you have them losing to Texas Tech, and I think I've got them losing somewhere in the middle of all this. Like I think maybe Kansas, or they don't play Kansas, but somewhere I had them with a loss. That's why I have them at 12-1 after winning the Big 12 and being the 3 seed.
Okay. BP, who's your 3 seed?
My 3 seed, Dalt is going to love this. I have SMU winning
SMU.
the ACC. Now, I do think there's going to be a trend here with my picks because I had to make an adjustment for old Florida State. I do think Florida State is going to beat them in week, I think it's 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And then they're going to run their SMU schedule is cake besides Florida State.
Is Florida State even?
And that's, yeah, they may go 12-0. So, and then the only issue would be if you run into Clemson, that's some trouble. But I think SMU, although they looked like crap against Nevada, they finally turned it on in the fourth quarter, and it really wasn't even close. So,
yeah,
I like SMU to win the ACC, and they will be the 3 seed.
Well, I mean, hey, when you look back in week 9 and they're 8 or 9-0 or 8-1, nobody's going to remember how close that game against Nevada was. All they're going to know is it was a dub. So that takes me to my 3 seed. I've got the Clemson Tigers as my 3 seed. I've got them actually finishing 11-2 with a winner in the conference championship game. I've got them dropping that game week 1 against Georgia, and then I've got them losing to Virginia Tech in the regular season, but then they're going to turn around and beat Virginia Tech in my Big Ten or ACC championship to finish 11-2 and vault into that third spot in the first round bye as the 11-2 ACC champ. So then I'll move on to my 4 seed, Oklahoma State. I have the Cowboys in here as well, BP.
Yes,
so
sir.
Anybody that ever wanted to say that a couple, an OU and Texas fan that have a podcast don't like Oklahoma State, hey, take it somewhere else. I've got Oklahoma State going 12-1. I've got them losing that game, Texas Tech, winning the Big 12 championship game over Iowa State, as we talked about. It was kind of difficult for me to look at Clemson at 11-2 and put them over Oklahoma State. I just think that the committee, I think they're just going to believe that Clemson's a better team. Maybe a slightly tougher conference. I think it's a close race between the Big 12 and the ACC right now for that kind of third spot, as far as right behind the SEC and the Big 10. I think Clemson edges them out just a little bit. So I got Oklahoma State in there at my 4 seed. I think it's a big year for Mike Gundy. So we'll see how it turns out. BP, who is your 4 seed?
My 4 seed is Oklahoma State. And if they don't do it now, it's kind of like, if you don't do it now, when are you ever going to make a push for it? Dalton said it. They bring everybody back. The best running back in America. They bring back all of their O linemen. They have good wideouts out there. My question is defense, though. Obviously, I watch all their games. They do struggle on defense from time to time. It is not the OSU team that was literally 2 inches from making the playoff. So I just, the OSU fan I am, if you don't do it now, when are you ever going to do it? So I hope Gundy has them ready, and they are my 4 seed.
Okay. Dalt, who's your 4 seed?
My 4 seed is the Lane Kiffin-led Ole Miss Rebels. I have Ole Miss winning the SEC at, I believe I have them going either 10-2 or 11-1 in the regular season, and then getting in over tiebreakers over Georgia and Alabama. I have them beating Texas in the SEC championship, and it's crazy to think that an SEC champion would be a 4 seed, but looking at it, if I've got a 13-0, a 12-1, and then a 12-1,
Yeah.
I mean, just
And
by
I
the
mean,
numbers, it's pretty chalk.
Yeah.
So I have Ole Miss at the 4 seed.
Okay. Who's your 5? Turn it right back around.
My 5 seed is the Oregon Ducks. I think that having both losses to Ohio State and going 11-2 is going to sit with the committee that you're the 5th best team in the country, potentially even the uh, 3rd or 4th best team in the country behind one of these other schools, but you're going to get the nod as the highest non-qualifier, the non-bye
Yeah.
week. So I think that's going to be Oregon.
BP, are we chalk here? I think we all
Y'all are
have Oregon
chalk.
at
I
5.
think
Yeah.
I have Oregon.
Okay. Go ahead. I mean, go ahead. What do you think of Oregon? You got them at your 5.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I do think they're going to beat Ohio State at home, and then I think they'll get beat by Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. If the playoff was just 1 through 12 and there was no automatic bids, I think Oregon would be 3. I think
Yeah.
they're the 3rd best team in the country. So, and you get Dylan Gabriel. This is not a popular opinion, I guess. I think Dylan Gabriel is going to be at the Heisman ceremony. I
Yeah.
think he's pretty good, and they're going to be good on defense again. They got weapons everywhere, so I'm high on Oregon. I just think they have the misfortune of having to play Ohio State twice. So
Yeah. And that's where I have them too. I have Oregon going 12-0 in the regular season, dropping that Big Ten championship game to Ohio State. Uh, I think kind of what BP was referencing in the same sense. Um, I, I like I agree as well. I think they're probably the 3rd best team, but because of the way this thing's set up, they're going to get that 5 spot. Which I think they're probably okay with that. They'll host a playoff game in Eugene, beat the absolute brains in of the poor 12 seed. Uh, could be a bowl game rematch against Liberty. A lot of people like Liberty in that 12 spot. We'll see. But yeah, and I agree with you there, BP. I like Gabriel a lot at Oregon. He obviously did good things for my Oklahoma Sooners in 2 years. I think he goes into a system that fits him to a literal T. Oregon, they like to get the ball out quick, kind of the short, intermediate passing game, which is where he excels. He's not going to be asked to run a ton, but he has that ability. I honestly, I would say he's probably a better runner than what they had last year in Bo Nix. Like I would say Bo Nix probably runs, he's probably faster than him, but I think Dylan Gabriel's a more effective runner out of the pocket as a quarterback. So yeah, I just think he fits there like a glove in what they do offensively. And I think Oregon just I agree completely. Just the losers of having to play Ohio State twice. Like it just is what it is. And so I'll turn right back around and give you guys my 6th seed. I moved back to the SEC. This is my SEC runner-up. I have them going 11-2, losing to Georgia twice, once in the regular season, once in the conference championship, and that's Ole Miss. I've got Ole Miss at 6. Think it's a massive, massive year for Lane Kiffin. Kind of finally gets over that hump, gets in a playoff game, gets to host a playoff game there in the Grove. I like Ole Miss a lot this year. I think they may finally be able, like I said, to get over that hump. So they are my 6th seed. BP, who's your 6?
my 6th seed is Notre Dame. I think if they beat Texas A&M, I think they're going 12-0. Their schedule is, I think the last week they play USC, but USC by that time may be 8-3, So, and Notre Dame will obviously have a lot to play for. I know they bring in some linemen. Notre Dame's always good up front. And then I do think Riley Leonard probably fits this offense better than Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman couldn't run at all. I mean, he was just a sitting duck back there. So, and I think Notre Dame's going to be good on defense again. So I like Notre Dame. Plus, if Notre Dame goes 12-0, that we all know they're going to be 5, 6. They're
Oh,
going to
yeah,
be up there. So I've got them at 6.
for sure.
If they
Dalt,
go
who's
if
your
they go
6th seed?
if they go 12-0, there'll be some questions being asked about Independence getting a first round bye.
Yep.
Like this conference championship bye stuff is going to get tested if they go 12-0.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
but
have SMU.
to kind of to play devil's advocate on that though, Dalt, they'll kind of get their own form of a bye anyway if they make the playoff because they don't have a conference championship game. So all that week that all those conference championships are being played, they'll be sitting at home relaxing, and then they'll get to host a playoff game if they're a top 8 seed. So I kind of agree with you there as far as the bye, but with Notre Dame, it's kind of unique because they'll have that built-in bye if they make the playoff without not having the conference champ. But go ahead, give your 6.
My 6 is the SMU Pony Express. I think the Mustangs are primed for a big
Come
year.
on.
I think that they're going to go either 11-1 or 12-0, and then they're going to lose the conference championship to Clemson. So
Are we
am
backpedaling? 11-1.
no.
Mm.
I mean, I think I picked them to go 11-1 on our picks, but I'd said 12-0, 11-1, 12-0. You lose that game to Clemson, and then you're just sitting right there behind Oregon. Like, congratulations on a great year, but Oregon got beat by the best team in the country twice. So here we are. I have
Yeah.
SMU at my 6th seed.
All right, turn around and give me your 7 then, Dalt.
My 7 is my runner-up of the SEC, and that is my Texas Longhorns. I have them going 10-2 in the regular season. I have them dropping that game to Michigan in week 2, and then I think I have them losing to Texas A&M to end the year, and then losing to Ole Miss. I think that puts them at the 7 seed.
Okay, you do have SMU 12-0 though, by the way, in our picks.
Yes, sir.
Well, 12-1
I wouldn't.
after
I wouldn't.
conference championship.
Okay, BP, who's your 7?
My 7 seed is my SEC runner-up, and that will be Ole Miss. I think they're going 11-1. They're similar to Oregon in the fact that I think they're going to be pretty good. They just have the real misfortune of getting to play Georgia twice, and I don't think they're beating them either time. So I still think they'll be at 7 with being 11-2. How are you going to knock a team for getting beat by Georgia twice? I just don't think you can. So my 7 seed is Ole Miss.
Okay. My 7 seed is a team we've not talked about yet. Surprisingly enough, the Alabama Crimson Tide. I've got them going 10-2. Believe I've got them losing to Georgia and I'd have to go look, maybe Tennessee. But I know I've got them going 10-2. Yeah, I've got them losing at LSU. So I've got them at 10-2. I think they finished 3rd in the SEC, or possibly tied. It'll be weird with Texas because they don't play each other. Because I've got Texas at 10-2 also. But yeah, Alabama year 1, Kalen DeBoer. I know a lot of people are just living for the downfall of the machine that is the Alabama Crimson Tide, and I just don't see it happening this year. There's too much in place there, and Kalen DeBoer's won everywhere he's been. The guy's a great coach. He's obviously not Nick Saban. Like, nobody is. He's the greatest coach ever in college football. So just chill. He's going to do things a little bit differently, but I don't love Jalen Milroe. I don't love him at quarterback. I think he's a good player, but I think they take a little step back as far as winning the SEC in year 1 of DeBoer, but they're going to have a good year. Like I said, 10-2. I've got them in my 7 seed, and so then I'll move right into my 8. Dalt, you're going to love this pick. OU fans, close your ears. I've got the Texas Longhorns right behind Alabama. Got four SEC teams, fellas, in my top 8. I've got Texas going 10-2 as well. I believe I've got the Longhorns losing to Georgia, and I have an major upset, disappointing loss to the Kentucky Wildcats. Conley, you'll like that. Yeah, got Texas 10-2. I think they squarely get in there. I think the schedule is pretty favorable for your Longhorns. Dalt, we talked about that in our preview. I think they could easily go 11-1, but I got them at 10-2. So I like Texas at my 8. BP, who is your 8 seed?
Tim is not going to like this at all. My 8 seed is Penn State. I think Penn State is going 11-1,
Mm.
and I think they're going to go 11-1 and miss out on the conference championship game because they're going to get beat by Ohio State. So I'm looking at it now. They have a 3-week stretch. They go at USC, at Wisconsin, Ohio State at home. So that is their stretch, and after that, it's chalk for Penn State. So I do think Penn State is going to be pretty good if what's their quarterback's name?
Drew Lar.
If he can just take care of the football, that's asking a lot, I know, but if he can do that, I do think Penn State's going to be really good. So Penn State is my 8 seed, and they have great uniforms.
Well, he's got to get
I'll
in the
agree
same
there.
area code as his receiver to not turn it over.
True.
I'll agree there on the uniforms. It's about all Penn State's got going for them in my book. But hey, well, different conversations.
It's their
Galt,
year,
who is
Jim.
your 8 seed? No, it's not.
My 8
Who's your 8 seed?
My 8 seed is the Alabama Crimson Tide. I have them at 10-2, finishing, I believe, in a weird 3-way tie for second that they miss out on. I think kind of the same thing you said about them. I don't see a big drop off with Kalen DeBoer. I mean, there's Alabama's still Alabama talent, so Kalen DeBoer's won everywhere he's went. Like you said, that's Alabama's going to go 10-2. And do you know what their prize is to be? Who you get to play as the number 9 seed?
Who's your 9 seed?
The Georgia Bulldogs, who also go 10-2. Georgia loses to Alabama and Texas, and the head-to-head with Texas keeps them out of the head-to-head keeps them out of the SEC championship and behind Alabama, and that's why they're at the 9 seed. But 10-2, I mean, Georgia fans are back. 10-2, it's a tough schedule. Like you have to go to the 2, 3, and 4 projected finishers in the preseason. You have to go to all 3 of them. So it's not just going to be chalk. I think you drop 2 of those. I think you beat Ole Miss. But other than that, I think 10-2 is right where Georgia's going to be this year.
Give me your 9 seed, BP.
Before I say my 9 seed, I want this to be put on record. When we did this playoff bracket, it was before I had to watch what Florida State did to me on Saturday.
I gave out chances yesterday for last second changes.
I can't back out.
I did.
Fair enough.
So,
I applaud you for sticking by it. I'll give you that.
I'm going to stick by it. The deal with Florida State, if they can just somehow get on a roll and figure it out, I do think they're going to beat SMU. I just think that'll be like SMU's wake-up call, like, oh, this is what we got to get ready for at the end. My question about Florida State was week 1 just an absolute letdown, piss down your leg, look terrible? Or are they really that bad? So obviously I have them at the 9 seed. I think they're going to figure it out. I hope they figure it out, but I have them at my 9 seed. They're going to have to go 10-0 from here on out, which is that's pretty tough to do. But if you play good defense in the ACC right now, I feel like that's pretty possible. So I have Florida State making it to the ACC championship game, and then they will lose, and they will be 10-2, 10-3.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not backing out of it. My 9 seed is Florida State.
Fair enough. My 9 seed is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I've got them going 10-2. A lot of people would probably say 10-2 is not good enough for Notre Dame to get in there, but I don't have a 9-3 team. Spoiler alert, I guess, in my playoff. I think there will be quite a bit of carnage across college football, but not as much. Looking at my list here of all the teams that I had possibly to get in, I've got two 10-2 teams left out, and I think Notre Dame will have a better resume than both of those. As you know, neither of those will be conference champions or anything like that. So I've got Notre Dame at 9. I think they lose that first game of the year at A&M, and then I don't remember who I had them dropping another game to. I would have to. I don't. We didn't write their or put theirs down their schedules, but I've got the Fighting Irish at 9, and I'll go ahead and move into my 10 seed, which this will probably shock you both as much as I love to hate them. No, it ain't Penn State. It is the Miami Hurricanes coming in at 10-2. I don't have them playing in the conference championship. However, I think they have a decent resume at 10-2. No real bad losses. And I think they're going to get the hype with Cam Ward. I think he's going to have a big year. I just think they're going to come up short of the conference championship. So I've got Miami at my 10 seed. Go ahead, BP. Give me your 10 seed.
My 10 seed is Kansas State. I think they're going to go 11-1. I do think they're going to beat my Oklahoma State Cowboys at home. And then I think OSU turns around and beats them in the Big 12 championship game. I just like the brand of football they play, and their schedule is pretty chalk. Besides, they get Oklahoma State at home. I think they get Kansas at home too, if I'm not mistaken. So their two biggest games they get at home. And the reason I have them at 10, I just don't think people's opinion of the Big 12, I just don't think is very high. So that's why I have them at my 10 seed. Although I think they're going to be pretty good. So sweet uniforms again too.
All right, Dalt. Give me your 10 seed.
Me and BP no ball. I have a team out of Kansas as well making the playoffs, but it is not the Kansas State Wildcats. It is the Kansas Jayhawks. I think that they have the most manageable schedule in all of the Big 12. I think that they are going to beat Iowa State, and they may drop that game to Kansas State, but I see Kansas State dropping other games along the way as well. So I have them losing to OSU, going either 10-2 or 11-1. I think I have them at 11-1 though, and then losing to Oklahoma State in the conference championship. And like BP just said, the Big 12 is not going to get as much respect as a 10-2 SEC team. But I think that Kansas is set up to make a really good push for a playoff, and I have all the faith if Jalen Daniels can stay healthy that this Kansas team is going to be a force with what they return at running back and all the weapons that they have, and gifted a pretty easy schedule.
All right. Then give me your 11 seed, Dalt.
My 11 seed is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think that they go 10-2 as well. I think they kind of lose the games that are going to quote unquote mean like that they can hang their hat on. I think they dropped that last one to USC, kind of thinking they're already in with one loss. I think they kind of get that overlooked. And then I can't remember who else I had them losing to, but I had them dropping another game somewhere in there. So I have them going 10-2 and getting in as the 11 seed.
Give me your 11 seed, BP.
My 11th seed is Alabama. I have them losing to Georgia and Tennessee. And then I just think any Alabama team ever from here on out that goes 10-2 is going to make the 12-team playoff. So
I would agree.
I think maybe I'm wrong here. Alabama still has a really good roster full of really good players. And I think they're going to use the, hey, like, why not us mantra this year. Kalen DeBoer is probably being told, are you really a good coach? Are you ready for this? Can you fill Nick Saban's shoes? And I think the players will feed off of that too. So I like Alabama this year. I just think Georgia is better. And then I think you have to go to Tennessee. That one's a tough one. But other than
For
that, I
sure.
have them going 10-2.
Okay. My 11 seed, this one's going to shock. Well, I mean, y'all know, but I've got Virginia Tech as my 11 seed. I've got them going 11-1 in the regular season. I think they're going to have a massive year. I've got them beating Clemson in the regular season, but then turning around and losing that game in the conference championship in the ACC. So I've got Clemson and Virginia Tech both going 11-2. Like I had earlier, Clemson winning the conference, but I think Virginia Tech being 11-1 going into that game is going to be ranked so high. I like the Drones kid at quarterback. Uh, I, I, I love Virginia Tech's uniforms. I don't know what about the maroon and orange. It just looks so good in the white. Love the helmets, the inner Sandman. The entrance is iconic. I think Virginia Tech is back this year, right in the center stage of college football. The Hokies are who I'm riding with in the ACC outside of Clemson. So I've got the ACC runner-up 11-2 Virginia Tech Hokies as my 11 seed. Kind of my one surprise pick, I would say, for my 12 team playoff. Not a super popular one. And then my group of five team, and we don't have to touch on these super in depth. My group of five team is Memphis, and I have them going 11-1, losing to Florida State. Which looking at it now, they might go 12-0. They might beat Florida State. I think they play that game here in a few weeks, and I just think they if they go 11-1, a lot of people talking about them, so they kind of have that hype a little bit as one of those two or three teams that has a real shot. So they'll be a team that's in the committee's mind. And so at 11, or I guess what, 12-1, I'll probably have them winning their conference. I've got them getting in at my 12 spot. So BP, who's your 12 seed?
My group of five team is going to be Boise State. They returned 20 of 22 starters, which is just that's an absurd number to bring back. I have them going 11-1 because week 2 they get to go play at Oregon, and so they ain't winning that. But I think Boise State's going to be really good, so I have them going 11-1, and their prize for making the college football playoff is you get to go right back and play Oregon again. So, congrats on your 11-1 season. Here you go again.
Who's your 12 seed, Dalt?
My
And we'll
12
make
seed
these
is
picks.
my 12 seed is the Liberty Flames. I think the Salters kid at quarterback, along with what might be the biggest joke of a schedule out of any team in the country. I think Liberty walks to 12-0, and kind of like BP, congratulations, you get to play Oregon again like you did in the Fiesta Bowl last year.
Yeah, that probably not going to go over well for the Flames. Okay, fellas. So that's our 12 team playoffs. The listeners here will have the graphic out. Now, what I want to do, and I'll probably just let us go one at a time. I want you guys, I'll start with you, Dalt, since you just finished, and I want you to give me your first round picks and go ahead and give me your second round picks. Give me your quarterfinal, give me your semifinal, give me your final, and give me your 2020, what will be 2025 national champion. So the floor is yours, Dalt. Let's hear
Okay, I at my 8-9, I had Georgia and Alabama. I have Georgia winning that rematch. My 5-12, I have Oregon playing Liberty. Oregon is going to just smash Liberty's brains in. My 11-6, I have SMU and Notre Dame. I have Notre Dame winning that. And then my 10-7, I have Texas and Kansas, and I have Texas winning that game.
Okay.
My 9 seed Georgia goes on to play number 1 Ohio State. I have Ohio State winning that game. My 5 will play my 4, which is Oregon and Ole Miss. I have Oregon beating Ole Miss. I have Notre Dame playing Oklahoma State. I have Oklahoma State winning that game.
Come on.
And then I have Texas playing Clemson. and I have Texas upsetting Clemson as the 7 seed, getting into the
Of course you do.
semis. I have my one playing. I have a rematch of Ohio State and Oregon as my 1 and my 5 in the semis. I have Ohio State winning for a third time and just shutting all the Dan Lanning hype up. This is going to be Washington 2. It's going to be Washington 2.0 for him. He's going to be seeing ghosts. He's going to be out there fighting ghosts on the
That's fair.
sidelines.
That's fair.
And then in my other semi, I have Oklahoma State and Texas, and I have Texas beating Oklahoma State. And then, do you want to go back? You want to go back?
You sure about that?
we had Ollie Gordon spent his whole season spiking the ball in the end zone, and then third quarter he's spiking his helmet on the sideline. I don't want to hear it. So, but in my finals, I have Ohio State and Texas, and I have Ohio State beating Texas to win the national championship.
Love it.
You better say that. You better say that quietly. Okay. Well, listeners, that is Dalton's 12-team playoff. You heard it here first. BP, I will move on over to you. Go ahead and give me your picks on all your games.
Okay, with my 8-9 game, I have Penn State beating Florida State. My 5-12 game, congrats, Boise State. You get hammered by Oregon for the second time. My 11-6 game, I have Alabama beating Notre Dame. What a uniform game that'll be, by the way.
Yes, sir.
My 7-10 game, I have Ole Miss beating Kansas State. And then I have Penn State will play Georgia. Congrats, Penn State. You get murdered by Georgia. And then I have
James Franklin's so back.
All the way back.
I have Oregon going up against my Cowboys. I got Oregon.
It's a good choice.
Bama's getting SMU, just a typical Alabama roll of the dice. Sorry, SMU. And then I have Ole Miss playing Ohio State. I have Ohio State beating Ole Miss. Sorry, Lane Train. And then I have Georgia playing Oregon, which I think that would be an awesome game if that ever happened at any point. That'd be a great game. And I have Georgia winning, and then I have Bama, Ohio State, which I think would be another awesome game. And I have Ohio State winning, and then I have Ohio State beating Georgia in the national championship game.
Okay. I will go through mine. 8-9 matchup. I've got Texas versus Notre Dame. I've got Texas winning that game. 12-5, I've got Memphis, Oregon. Just like the trend continues. Sorry, Memphis. Thanks for coming at. Going back to Tennessee. Get that out of here. 7-10 matchup, I've got Alabama taking down Miami. And then in my 6 versus 11, 6 versus 11. Yeah. I've got Ole Miss ending Vatek's dream season. So then to move on to my quarterfinals, I've got Oregon playing Oklahoma State. Not going to go well for Mike Gundy. Got Oregon winning that one. I've got Texas versus Georgia in that 1 versus 8 matchup. Got Georgia winning that one. Alabama versus Ohio State, 7 versus 2. Got Ohio State winning that game. And then 6 versus 3, I got Ole Miss taking down Clemson in the 6 versus 3. So then to move on to my Final Four, it's all Big Ten SEC Final Four. I've got Oregon taking down Georgia in the matchup you just talked about. That would be awesome. I've got Oregon winning that one. And then Ohio State versus Ole Miss. I've got Ohio State beating Ole Miss. So I've got an all Big Ten championship, Ohio State versus Oregon for a third time, which I don't love. And I've got Oregon, 2025 national champions. I've got them beating Ohio State.
Love it.
Taking 2 or 3. And I'm going to be totally honest. I'm firing from the hip here, fellas, because I don't have my graphic that I made. I think that those were my picks. I really hope that they were. So I'm pretty sure I did that right. But I know I got the seeds right, but as far as the actual bracket, yeah, I'm pretty sure I got it right. But I know I have Oregon as my national champ, so I guess that's all that matters, right? That's all that matters. I know I got my
Sure.
Final Four right. So you guys both had Ohio State winning the national title. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
I have Oregon. So we've got the Big Ten claiming a second straight national title over. I've got a Big Ten championship. So thanks for coming out, SEC. I guess you can say. So with that, fellas, that's our 12-team playoffs, and I don't know about you guys, but we are so very close to week one that you can literally taste it. We got, like we talked about earlier tonight, got a little appetizer for week one in week zero. Games did not disappoint, so I look forward to watching some probably just awful games on Thursday night. My Sooners play on Friday night. You guys both get your team's debut on Saturday. Got just 5 great games that we talked about here tonight. Can't wait to watch those this weekend. But yeah, that's our playoff preview, our playoff prediction. We'll see how we do. Have to this will be a fun little exercise to go back and look at come what early December, whenever these conference championship games get played. We'll see how we did. I have to imagine as many people that are going to fill out these makeshift brackets. I can't imagine that anybody's probably going to get it perfectly right. But hey, you never know. It's kind of like March Madness. Who would ever thought we'd be here with college football? But that's where we're at. I guess. You guys got anything else to add tonight?
No, sir.
Okay.
I have one question for you two, specifically
Okay.
Tim.
Okay.
Okay. I want you two to guess who is the most bet on team to cover the spread in Las Vegas for week one. They have the most money on them to cover the spread.
I know the answer.
Mm,
Is it Colorado?
It is the Colorado Buffalo.
Oh, of
So,
course it is. Give me a
so
break.
if
I
you're a
hope they
bettor out
lose.
there and you believe in fading the public,
I hope they
Colorado
lose.
is the
I
most
hope they
bet on
lose.
team this week to cover the
Please,
spread.
please. What a just phenomenal moment it would be. What is the spread in that game? North Dakota State, right?
It
It's
started
like
at
10.
it started at like 8.5 or 9, and it's all the way up to 10. So people are just hammering Colorado.
Love it. Give me North Dakota State. That's just a friendly one. No, I think Colorado probably wins that game, but they may not win by 10. But yeah, fellas, that's going to do it for us. BP, as usual, man. We appreciate you coming on. We had some good feedback, Dalt, on our challenge that we had for the listeners. Hope that continues. So we'll have a few more new guests on in the coming weeks based on the response we got out of that. So again, BP, we greatly appreciate you coming on. Always love talking with you on this pod. It's always fun. We have a good time. But with that, I look forward to week one. That's all I've got. So if you guys are done, I guess that's it. And we are out.
Yes, sir. Don't forget to cover the flats.
Yes, sir. See ya.